I wanted to address this concept of free will. Particularly, I had a lot of questions that I wanted to ask, so I'll ask them here. First of all, what is free will? What is meant by free will? Does that mean we can do whatever we want to do? Does that mean that if I want to fly unaided, can I? Or does free will have certain bounds? I can fly if I want to, but not unaided. I have to get a pilot's license in an airplane, and then I can fly. So when we talk about people having instincts, does that impede upon their free will? When you touch something hot, it is instinct that pulls your hand away. We are predators, and as such our eyes follow motion. It is instinct that guides us to watch things that move. Instincts are useful for survival, by getting our body to move before we have a chance to recognize what is happening and what we should do about it. Instincts can be trained. We can train others as well as ourselves to react in certain ways, to not act when otherwise we might, and ultimately we can change our instincts from reacting one way to reacting another way. One of the most ready examples of this is in martial arts, training our bodies to take a fall by rolling rather than putting our hands out. So instinct probably doesn't impede free will, we just have to identify and train in preparation. But there are other things about us that guide our choices. Scientists have known for some time now that the frontal lobe in our brains determine how we react to things. This is similar to instincts but not quite. It does not determine our choices. Such a function would require prior knowledge of the choices we would need to make. What it does is determine how we react to stimuli, how aggressive we are, what we find funny, our behavior in general. Now, having defined a behavior, when presented with a choice it becomes easier to determine what choice will be made, but still not specifically and by no means highly accurately. Would this undermine free will? How about the issue of homosexuality? Scientists are starting to recognize that homosexuality is nature and not nurture. Between certain gene sequences, the amount of testosterone our fetuses are exposed to, and how resistant the mother is to testosterone, there are certain factors that we are learning actually determine that a person is homosexual. The more we learn about these things, the less reasonable it is to call homosexuality a choice, though there are probably also those who choose homosexual relationships. The thing is, free will is generally a religious topic, or at least I don't encounter the concept in secular discussions. It also comes up alongside the concept of an omniscient and omnipotent creator. If God knows everything, including the choices we will make before we even exist, and He is the one who created us, how exactly do we have free will? If God can create us with a determination of our choices before we are even presented with those choices, how can God possibly avoid doing so? He created us, He created everything about us including our ability to choose. How does He create us to choose an outcome that He does not already know? So my question is, given all these examples, what is free will? As I study the Bible I find more and more that free will is not about the freedom to do what we want, but instead simply about the ability to disobey God. Is this an accurate description? And what does it mean? If there is no God, we certainly have no reason to obey said God, so claiming that disobedience is free will is like claiming all fish can do what the lungfish can, but the lungfish is wrong for doing so. But if there is a God, what is the point of giving us the ability to disobey Him? If God has given me the ability, the right, to deny Him, then why all the hate for doing so? The one big discussion I had lately skipped on the topic of human suffering quite regularly, and the defense of God was that if He were to step in, He would be impeding upon our free will by giving incontrovertible proof of His existence. If free will is about obedience, just because I know police officers are there to arrest me for breaking the law doesn't prevent me from breaking the law. So how does knowledge of God's existence prevent me from fully accepting Him or His authority? Especially when I ask for proof of His existence. And if this knowledge of God does impede upon my free will, then why did God ever come down to Mount Sinai to give Moses the 10 Commandments? Why the 600+ other commandments that make up the Jewish law? If it is so important that we be given free will, why also give us rules? And why punish us for breaking those rules? I submit to you a few possibilities. 1. That God is not all-powerful or all-knowing, that he cannot create us with predetermined choices but wants our obedience and will lie to get it. 2. That God is all-powerful, and that he created us able to disobey him specifically so that he could torture us, and that such a God is not deserving of any worship in any way. Or 3. That God does not exist, but that a man invented God with the first possibility in mind, that a man wanted our obedience and used the concept of God to get it.